Hi Diggy! I just wanted to send you and your brothers a message because it's my event tonight and I wish you were here so much. I really wish you were here. I miss you and I need your little faces in the audience. But I know you can't, but the event is being live streamed through my Insta account and you're going to be at school at the time, but it will be live for 24 hours. So when you get home from school, you can watch the event with Gussie and Bear Bear. Wish you were here. I love you. Mwah.
Let's give her a round of applause. Welcome to our evening that is all about being a global entrepreneur, a great success in your aspiring or established or growing business. This evening we're going to hear from Sue Ellen. She's going to talk to us about her story, the courage that she's had establishing and creating success in 3 different industries and uproot it from Australia and to bring it here to New York City with 3 young children also. As a fellow mother, I would be remiss to not mention that also, the courage that it takes to really put everything on the line and take that incredible risk.
Oh, thanks. And thanks so much for joining us. This is a great opportunity experience for me to be in New York. And also we're live streaming, so I want to say hi to my boys because this is how they're connecting with me tonight. So I started in business 11 years ago, and when I started, I had just moved to a new state, and so I didn't know anyone. And the global financial crisis had just begun. I dropped out of university in Australia, but college 3 times. So I had no qualifications. I'd never been in business. I didn't have any family in business, I had no money, not any money, and had a 3-month-old baby. And I thought, this is a great time to start a business, isn't it? Like, you know, that's smart. I've got all these amazing tools. If I'd actually spoken to anyone about it, obviously they would have advised me that I was crazy. So I'm lucky I didn't. But I did have 2 things that in hindsight were probably the 2 most important things. The first one was I had a naivety. So I was completely naive to what I was about to embark on. And I actually didn't see any of those things that I didn't have as problems. Like I just didn't even register. It's only now or in the last 5 years I look back and thought, wow, that's crazy. So I had this naivety, which I think is really important in startup. Not so much for me now because I've got more responsibilities, but I also had a really clear vision. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a business that had an international reach. I wanted to create a culture that inspired and developed the people that we worked in. And I wanted to change the way the HR industry was run, because back then I had been working in that industry, not for very long, considering I went into business in the space, but I found it really boring and not very commercial, and I just thought that it should be different. So I had this really clear vision, and I thought, as I sat in my spare bedroom, which was about this size, with my 3-month-old baby, and thought, I'm going to take over the world. Like, I seriously am going to take over the world.
Well, first, going back to, so What's Next is the company that you're referring to.
Yes.
So that's been established for 11 years.
Yes.
And, you know, consulting, right, sometimes gets that sort of dirty word rap a little bit.
Yes.
But it was essentially a consulting business. Yes?
Yeah, and I think what was interesting about the business and why it has succeeded in Australia was because I was never really a practitioner. So I saw an opportunity in the HR space. And in Australia, HR was really about how people function in their job. We don't look at benefits or payroll. It's not like that as it is here. And because I'd been doing it for a little while, but not really that long, and I didn't want to be a practitioner. I wanted to build businesses. So what that meant was that probably the biggest issue with being able to scale a service business is that people rely too much on themselves as a biller from the beginning, and then they don't want to give up their money. So to employ people, it's like, well, I'll keep billing out myself, and I didn't want to do that. So I invested in people very early on, well before I could afford it. I've always had the philosophy of commit and then find a way to pay for it, like right now. Like I've come to New York, employed Helen, we've come into the office, we've branded, and now we've got to be able to pay for that. Yes. I do it the other way around, but that works for me. And so I invested in staff very early on, and that meant that I could have earned more money in the first 5 years, but I didn't earn any money because I kept putting it into the business. And I think that was probably key.
Tell us a little bit to sort of, build some familiarity about you as a person, because you obviously you talked already a little bit about personal philosophies and sort of positive mantras and naivete, that really helped you to be a catalyst to follow this dream. Who would you say that you are as a person?
Yeah, I think, so my life mantra is no plan B, which I have tattooed on my wrist. And basically what that means, I think it's an Anthony Robbins quote of, if you want to take over the island, you have to burn the boats. And I'm a big believer that we have so much more potential and capability in us than what we realise. And we give ourselves safety nets. And if we actually took away the safety net, we'd actually be able to do a lot more. It's like, you'd hold on a lot longer if you knew there was nothing that was going to catch you. And so I've always had this philosophy of that, no plan B. If there's no plan B, then you've got to make it work. Yeah. And you've got to be resourceful, and you've got to find a way. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have different tactics or you don't change your strategy. But if your goal is to, for me, was to build an international business or to come to New York, then there's been so many obstacles along the way, but ultimately that's plan A and there's no other option. So I've got to keep working around that. And really for me, I've just watched so many people in my life that have so much more potential than what they can see, and that breaks my heart. Like I get very impacted by the fact that we've got all these incredible people walking around every day with amazing ideas or amazing gifts and talents or stories, and we're not sharing that. We're afraid. We're afraid of what people think. We're afraid that we're going to fail. And all of that stuff doesn't mean anything.
We stop ourselves, yeah. Absolutely. It's a big part of my why of my business here in primary. I'm constantly meeting all of these different people with these visions and these dreams who have the courage to pursue them.
This is the perfect space for that.
That's why co-working is a wonderful space for that, because you get to lean into one another. And
I don't do syndromes, and I don't like the imposter syndrome. I don't like mother guilt. I just don't partake in that at all. Like I'm often speaking to people and they talk about, I can't do this, the mother guilt. I just don't. I like you said, I just put it aside. It's not even part of the way that I think, because it doesn't serve anyone, right? So thinking that why should I be the one that succeeds, or thinking that I shouldn't do this because I've got children, doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help your children or your family. It doesn't help you. What's the point in that? I don't get it. So I just don't play that game.
So in general, what's your view on sort of the overall state of entrepreneurship and the startup world today?
I have concerns about this space because I think that at the moment it's seen as really glamorous, and it's seen as the thing that everyone should be an entrepreneur. And I don't believe that at all. I think that just like not everyone could be an engineer or everyone could be a doctor, I think that it's for a certain, it's a certain type of person. And I think that at the moment there is so much in the media about everyone should be an entrepreneur. It's really cool. You come up with an idea and then you go and get investors, and then you sell it for big bucks, and it's awesome. And there's like 5 companies that have really, that we talk about the same companies: Airbnb, Uber, Snapchat, Facebook, and there's like 5, and everyone thinks that that's what it is, and they're going to do that. And I think that we're teaching people that are going into startup world the wrong things. We're teaching people how to pitch and get money. We're not teaching people how to build a sustainable business. What does it mean to actually have a product that someone will actually give you money for, buy your service or product, rather than say, yeah, it's great. What does it mean to actually be able to sell? What does it mean to manage cash flow, manage people? We're not teaching them what business is. And my view is business and entrepreneurship is about building businesses that are sustainable and that offer something back to our world. Now, that is not the theme, and that's because that's not sexy. It's pretty boring talking about cash flow and people issues, and the fact that we're all worried that we're not going to be able to pay our mortgages next month, and that it looks great on Instagram, but ultimately we're up all night worrying about how we're going to pay the school fees. We don't see that, and I think that we're sort of putting out this view that's really not accurate. I love this space. I love this world and this world of entrepreneurship, and I feel incredibly privileged to be playing that game. But I don't think we should be presenting it like it's for everyone and it's the cool thing to do, because it's serious, right. And lives get impacted significantly by not taking it seriously.
I have a sort of obviously a self-serving question. What do you think are some of the bigger challenges that women are facing as leaders today?
Yeah. So I think, obviously, there's difficulties for women. We've got the equality issue and the pay gap issue, and, we have to stop and have babies and all of those things. And I think, that's pretty clear. I mean, we're all really aware that there is some challenges there as women that we need to work through as a community. But what I would say is that I feel that as women we need to fight our individual battles more. So I think it's one thing for us to come together as a collective and, as an analogy, march the streets. But I think we need to, as an individual, go in and have that conversation with our boss about our pay increase, or talk to our employer about the fact that we need flexibility, or talk to your brother about the fact that he doesn't, he discriminates against women. I think we need to be, if we all went and fought an individual battle, that will have an enormous ripple effect. So I'd like to see more action from women themselves, and I'm not suggesting that is easy, and I'm not suggesting that you're going to have one conversation and it will be fixed. It won't. But we need to fight harder in the doing, because we need to yell out the message, but we need to then go and do something as individuals. Yeah. And I see so many women holding themselves back. There's been lots of studies around job advertisements where a man will look at the job advertisement and be able to do 50% of what it says and go, oh my God, I'm going to nail this. I'll be awesome at this job. Whereas a woman will look at it and there'll be one thing that she can't do and go, I can't apply for that. We need to make that change ourselves. We need to be courageous and push ourselves out there. And like, I was speaking to someone the other day and she said, I went to this group and there was just all men and I just wanted to turn around. I just turned around and walked out. It's like, unfortunately, you just can't do that, because we need to be the change. We need to say, what, I'm going to go and sit at that table and I'm going to say something, and if they don't listen, then I'm going to say it a bit louder, and then I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to keep doing that, and we have to do that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to have my Oprah moment here for a moment, but there's a lot of there's a series of questions that we ask the people who we are interviewing to be hired, and one of the questions that we ask is, who do you admire most? And whenever I answer that question for myself, Michelle Obama and Oprah come into my mind always first. And I think because this Women's Summit interview that was conducted between the two of them, did you see it? It was on CNN, 45 minutes, excellent. And there's this moment, where Oprah says to Michelle, it's a women's summit, so there are a lot of women here, but there are a couple of men in the audience. Thank you, men, for coming. And she said, Michelle, do you have a message for the men in the audience? And Michelle said, yes. She said, be better men. And there's kind of some laughter a little bit. And she said, but what I mean by that is notice the next time that you're on the golf course and there are only men there with you, or the next time you're at the boardroom meeting and there are only men sitting around that table, or on your executive board or the advisory board. And I'm guilty of that myself. I'm fundraising right now, and I'm looking at even my advisory board. It's 3 men, and so I realize that I, as a leader, I have to seek out other women. And I'm so lucky. I just recently met 2 women who are, one in particular, extraordinarily successful. But we also, conversely on the leader side, to notice when I hire these 2 employees for the same position, and one's a man and one's a woman, and the man is requesting more money because maybe that's what he's been taught previously, am I going to give him more money than what I'm going to give the woman, or am I going to offer them the same pay scale also, because I want to be proactively contributing to narrowing that gap also. Is there something specific that surprised you the most about people? There anything in general that you've learned about people over the last 10 years?
Well, I think right at this moment, being here in New York, one of the things that I'm pleasantly surprised by is how supportive and encouraging everyone is of the dream. Everyone's sort of like, yeah, this is awesome. How can I help you? I want you to win. And I think that's really nice. I think there's a lot of talk about how, people aren't caring for others, and people don't want others to get ahead of them and all of those sorts of things. But, I'm seeing every day constant support and encouragement, which I'm really loving. But I think that I remember a few years ago, I went around and I sort of did this personal mini survey to people, asking them if you could do any job in the whole world, what would you choose to do? And do you know that not one person said something that wasn't actually possible? And I thought about that a lot. And I think that sort of put me on this journey of, we've got so much more in us, and why do we think that we can't live our dreams? Why do we think that we can't live the life that we want to live? I mean, there are a million reasons right now, as far as society goes, about why I should not be here. I have 3 little kids at home in Australia. I didn't prepare financially for this move the way that really I could have. I don't have any of it worked out. And I've got a whole lot of responsibilities back there. There's a whole lot of reasons why I should not be sitting here. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got one life, and I really believe that life is too long to not be doing what you want to do, and life is too short to not do what you want to do. And I think, we're so afraid of a false fear. We're afraid of something that doesn't even exist. It's like what people might think, whatever. So when you let go of stuff like that, when you let go of worrying about failing, I have failed in so many things. It's ridiculous, because I try things and I don't have any attachment to the failure, because I don't look at it as in I am a failure. It's like, oh, that idea really sucked and it looks way better before I actually did it. But then there's cool things that come from that, right? So I think it's like, if I fail, then I am a failure. I'm a failure as a person, or if that happens, I am not worthy. That's actual bullshit. You've just literally made that stuff up. There's no evidence to that. So, I think, I don't even know what the question was now.
What surprised you the most about people? What were we talking about? When you talk about fear too, I'm reminded of, I'm a positive quote, mantra, queen also, and certainly it's, they are a lot of what get me through my days. And I think there's this notion about fear, and that saying, the fearless leader, but really it's not about being fearless, right? It's about recognizing the fear, embracing the fear, saying, oh, hello, fear, there you are again, and now I'm going to take you and put you over here, and I'm going to go forth anyway, right? I'm going to do it anyway. And even though the fear is there, and maybe walking yourself through the steps of, well, and then what would be the worst? And then what? And then what?
Yes.
And then what? And
so I found there was a time, was it late last year, where I'd had some difficult things happen, and I found that my aversion to risk was not as robust, and I was feeling a bit of fear in my business decision making. So I was like, oh, why am I feeling like this? So I went, I need a pattern interrupt. Like, I need something to address the fact that I'm feeling fear for something that doesn't exist. So I went and jumped out of a plane, and I do not like adrenaline at all. It was horrendous. I'll never do it again. But anyway, so then I picked the kids up from school, and they're like, "Oh, hi, Mum, what did you do today?" I said, "I jumped out of a plane today." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah," like I was feeling like I was like afraid of like making these business decisions. And they're like, "So you went and jumped out of a plane?" And I was like, yeah. And it was just like it was a physical pattern interrupt. And what I was doing so the guy who was my tandem started to put me in the thing, and he's like, "Oh, so, is it a special occasion?" I was like, "Well, no. So what the thing is I've got this business thing that I have to do." And he's like, "Oh, no, it's okay. Don't worry. It's like, he didn't want to go into that at all. He just wanted me to say, "Yeah, it's my birthday," or, something like that. So he wasn't interested. But actually I just needed this physical, because I know that definitely has its risks, but relatively I thought, this is safe. And so I'm like, so I'm feeling revoltingly afraid. Like, I just want to vomit. This feels so disgusting. And I was in the plane, I was like, and so I was really working on the fact that this is all false. It's all just a feeling in my body, and I can change that with my mind. And so I did the whole thing. Really, it was a business activity for me. I also jumped off the second tallest bungee, the same thing. I was having all these business issues and life issues, so I thought I'll write them all down and then I'll jump and I'll let go of the piece of paper. And so that's what I did. And I was like, and then like my mates go, "I can't believe you littered in New Zealand." And I was like, oh my God, this is not about me littering. It's like I was letting go of all my issues, and but I really like that whole physical pattern interrupt, to jolt you. So I don't know what I'll do next, but I hate adrenaline stuff. The kids thought it was unreal.
As the founders, how do we go through those extreme lows?
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at business as a game, and I think that you've got to love the game. So no footballer, for example, would go out to play the game not expecting to be beaten up a bit. They're not going to walk off feeling alive. They're going to walk off feeling exhausted. They're going to have some bruises, some cuts, maybe a black eye, because that's the game. And I really look at business the same way. And I think if you go into it expecting it to be a bed of roses, like it just isn't that. I mean, it really is. If you have those amazing moments, like celebrate those, because they are rare. It's a journey. If you don't like the game, then get off the court. Sit in the sidelines. The thing is about sitting in the sidelines is you're more likely you've got a lot more time to judge others. When you're on the court, you don't have any time to judge anyone else. You're not worried about what anyone else is doing. You're just worrying about playing your game. So I think that I look at it from my kids' point of view, every day is like, clean your teeth. Can you just clean your teeth? Can you just clean your teeth? Can you clean your teeth? Can you clean your teeth? And if that day you ask them once and they did it, it's like, whoa, this is an amazing day. But ultimately I expect that I'm going to have to ask them 20 times to clean their teeth, because that's how it is. We go into business and we expect to win that client and the employees to be happy all the time and to everything. That's not reality. So I think that perspective is critical in business, and to really understand what it is. And it's a game that you're going to get roughed up pretty much every day, and you've got to love that. You've got to love that part of it. That's the bit you've actually got to love. More than the reward or the wins, I think.
Yeah, being on the court.
So
on that note, are there any sort of personal mantras or positive, sort of thought processes and mantras that you have for yourself that you can, a few favorites or one favorite that you want to share with everyone in the room here tonight?
So I use my no plan B every day, but I think one of the ones that I love is, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I'm just a big believer that it's, what's in your head. Like, I know my biggest struggle in life and business is whatever's going on in my head. And so I constantly use that. It's like, what am I going to choose to make this situation mean? You know, like, so at the moment, we've got an issue with the the exchange rate being so difficult. Oh man, it's a challenge. And so I looked at it and was like, and I was talking to someone in Australia in business, and they were like, oh, you know, this is not good. And I was like, no, this means that, you know, America's pumping. You know, it's all about how I choose to look at it. So every situation that comes up, you know, is it what do you choose to make this mean is probably what I say to myself every day. What are you going to choose to make this mean? You have the choice to make this totally shit and ruin your day and you be beaten, or you turn it into, you know, whatever you want that's going to empower you. And I think if you can ask yourself that question as many times as you need to, what do I choose to make this mean? You've got control of your day as opposed to your day controlling you.
Yeah.
This is probably the key one that I utilise, but I'm a big quote lover.
I love it. Well, we're two peas in a pod up here then, and that, yeah. So I think, again, I know we didn't talk about this, but do we want to open it up? Does anyone have a burning question or two that you want to? I could have planted the seed sooner and said, get yourself ready for a question. Are you okay with
of course, yeah.
Great.
Sorry for my ignorance, but what is it you're actually going to do in New York?
Oh, that's a great question. I was hoping you guys might be able to help me with that. So my plan here is to build out an element of the consulting arm of Australia. I'm in 2 other tech businesses which I want to grow here, and continue doing as much speaking as I can do, and as much vlogging. So lots of video of my journey. So there's a couple of different elements, but when I decided to come here, I was like, I'm going to do what I really want to do. And so I sort of looked at all of those things and went, yeah, they're the things that I want to do. So document my life, talk as much as I can about the things that I'm learning, and give back as much as I can, and just keep doing business. Yeah, see what comes from that.
Yes, hello.
Along the lines of self-imposed fictitious fears and overcoming them, and never letting your own desire to succeed succumb to those fictitious fears, how do you view failure? Is it a means of finding success, or is it really just a hurdle, and does it just really test how much you want?
I think firstly, like the whole word of failure, it's like it's a thing, like it's a final thing, and I'm not sure whether in most cases it is. I can understand, you know, in sport you lose the game, right? So the siren goes and you lose the game. It doesn't really work like that in business. You know, the siren doesn't really go off. So yes, there are lots of goals that I haven't achieved or targets that I haven't met. But I mean, this sounds so cliche, you know, you get the learnings, and, you know, the learnings sort of override the failure. But I don't really utilise the word that much, because I'm going through the process. Like it's like I'm doing a process, and yes, I have end results for things, but ultimately I'm really just having a go every single day. So I don't attach too much. And I also look at things like I did an expansion in Australia which failed, so it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And I look at that and think, oh, you know, I could have done this differently and that differently and this differently. But then I look at it and go, if that had succeeded, I don't think I'd actually be here. So I also do believe that you create your own, you know, your own life and your own results. But I also do think that things happen for a reason, and, you know, that, you know, one door closes and another one opens. Like I do believe in that, the universe playing its part. So, but I just don't attach myself to those words that their meaning is based on what you think in your head. So it's not really real. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Does that make sense?
I mean, absolutely. And yet at the same time, it's still your baby. It's still an emotional connection to your company, to your business.
Oh, you know, that's interesting in itself, because I literally called my business What's Next My Baby for, you know, 8 years. And then one day when I was struggling and not making very good decisions, and I think once, you know, I was sort of in a spiral of just one bad decision led to another one. And I remember sitting at home, and I was looking out and I could see my car, and I was like, you know what? I've been calling this business my baby for 8 years. And what do babies do? Babies run your life. They tell you when you can sleep, when you can eat, when you can go out. They basically, you know, they will cry until you attend to them. And I was like, this is no longer going to be my baby. This is going to be my vehicle. This is going to be my car that I drive to where I want to go. And yes, I have to look after it. And yes, I have to make sure it's serviced. And I have to, like, you know, and it'll be a better journey if I've got the right people in the car. And I, you know, went on for ages. I thought it was fantastic about this whole analogy. But ultimately, that was a really important shift for me. It was actually the time when I was going through the moment of stepping away from being the CEO of my company in Australia, which was an interesting experience in itself because that was my decision, and then I handled it the worst out of everyone. So I would come to board meetings and I just behaved appallingly. Like, I just couldn't cope with the fact that I was no longer the CEO, yet that was my decision. And my chairman at the time said, you literally need to bring different hats to put on because you can't move between the different roles. But actually, I'd never actually sat on a board of a company before, so I didn't know how to do that role anyway. So I'd gone and transitioned into a new role in my business that I had never had any training in. And so I didn't think about these things. So this was all at a time when I was like looking out the window at the car and went, no more baby, it's now my vehicle, and yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that we shouldn't stop glorifying entrepreneurship. Not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What do you think are the key qualities that make up a successful one?
Yeah, I think you have to be comfortable with risk. I think that is critical because it is so risky, and you've got to go all in. I believe, and that means, you know, putting your house on the line, if you like. So I think if your security and stability is one of your sort of natural traits, and there's nothing wrong with that, then I think entrepreneurship is a difficult journey. Yes, that would be great to add to an entrepreneur. So I think that's probably one key thing. The other thing is that most entrepreneurs and I'm sit on the board of an entrepreneur organisation, and I'm very passionate about this space. The ones that I are friends with that I believe are true entrepreneurs, none of us are in it for the money. So if you are going into business because you think you can earn more than your boss, that you can have more flexibility and that you can make all the decisions, like, none of that's reality. You know, maybe eventually and in time, but really, if you want that, that's not what it's about. And even when you get to the point where you get that, so I could be living a relatively comfortable life in Australia right now, but that's not what I want to be doing. So I think that you've got to love the process of it. And if you're going in it for money, it's just not about that.
So much, Sel, for all of this incredible wisdom and the sharing here. If you have more questions, I'm sure you will be here and,
of course,
to answer. And thank you so much to Helen also and to my team for helping us to coordinate as well for this evening. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, Red.
Nice to meet you.
Chocolate.
Yes.
Aha. I'm a bit of a chocoholic.
Yeah. I'm a very small company though, and I was not sure if I understood the question right. So you ask your hires before you hire them, what are your values?
No.
Because I was like, that's
what I
for
meant,
the business owners that you work with.
Yeah, and to say these are our values. Can you align to that?
Exactly.
Can you work within that? Because that's how we work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, as business owners, you have to have your values.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you tell to the values of the company to the potential hirees, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And keep talking about them all the time, over and over again.
Exactly. I mean, when you're small, I mean, I'm in business also like a long time, but I'm still very small, and I have like one employee. And I know that it's not effective that one wears so many hats.
Yeah.
But when you are like small, it's also, but you kind of limited with what you can do, right?
Well, it depends how much you're prepared to sacrifice to grow.
I mean, I'm wearing all the hats, right?
Yeah, so it sounds like you need more people.
I need more people because I'm just like doing too many things, and then I feel like I have to think. I need people who think also, not
Yeah.
just who do what I tell them to do.
Yeah,
I need people who can
I understand
think.
that.
So, but my thing is also like, I can't pay like that much, but maybe
Yeah.
I should what you do, like just pay more and.
Well, there's paying more and making some sacrifices, but there's also selling.
But I'm already not on a payroll.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then there's selling people on the vision of the business and the potential of it and what you're trying to create. So when I started out, like I had a whole heap of employees that could have got paid so much more money somewhere else. In fact, I've always had staff that could be paid more money elsewhere. But they were engaged because of the vision and the story that I told and what I wanted to create. Hi.
I just wanted to thank you so much. This is such a treat, and especially you're so welcoming. And I had sort of like this scrambly time getting over here.
Yeah.
I'm a coach and I work in the HR
yes.
world as well. I just such a treat to meet you and welcome to New York.
Thank you.
Hey Tim, what do you think of the talk?
I thought it was really great. It's funny because Sue Ellen works with us here, but I never heard her story. Inspired, motivated, driven. Really wants to make me do better and pursue everything I could possibly pursue in this life. She said it's one life to live, so it really just opens my mind that everything is possible. The sky is truly the limit.
That was an amazing talk. I was just reflecting to Tim over here that I totally want to hire her. She's great.
If I could quit my job right now, I would and go work for her.
So it was incredible. I looked at everything in my life that I am doing wrong and looking at completely wrong. She made me want to be a better person. That was just the most awe-inspiring moment. Made me reevaluate everything that I'm doing in my life, and I'm ready to pursue my dreams and start.
What do you guys think of the talk?
Verbal today.
Talking on camera
inspiring and hit home.
This makes me very nervous, but she was phenomenal, very inspiring. I'm a big fan.
We want to get to know her better.
I love the talk. I've come to, I've seen quite a few of these types of talks, but Sel is so engaging and funny and self-deprecating as well. And I don't know whether that's an Aussie thing, for my Aussie ears or not, but I thought everything she said actually made me cringe a bit because I've gone and I'm going through so many of those thought processes and self-doubts and things like that. So she's given me some ammo, and she's made me laugh as well about really horrible sort of entrepreneurial nightmares, to be honest. But you gotta laugh. And I suppose if you only take one thing out of listening to her, you gotta laugh, you gotta be resilient, and you gotta keep going.